Hello, thank you for joining us. This is Pastor Cephas. I appreciate you being a part of this. Um, Today is just question and answers. Today is question and answers. 5 days, five changes, five principles, five executive principles that will change your life. From Monday to Friday, I've been speaking about these principles. And today we have come to the session for just questions. So I'm not going to talk much. I'm just going to leave the whole thing to you. If you're on Facebook Live, you can post your question in the chat session. And if you're on YouTube, you can also post your questions over there, and then someone will just, make sure that I have the information. So before we begin, just spend some time and share this with someone. Share this with someone. Invite someone to be part of this. Invite someone to be part of this. Just share this with someone and invite someone. Share it on your page. Share it on your page. We'll begin in the next 5 minutes. We'll begin in the next 5 minutes. I just want to give people the opportunity to join, and then we will start very, very soon. Thank you all for being part of this. Thank you for being part of this. It has been a great time together. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Share it with someone. Share it with someone. Let someone join us right now. 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 Share it, share it, share it. Share it and let someone join us. Share it and let someone join us. Share it and let someone join us. Share this and let someone be part of this. Thank you to those of you who are sharing it. Thank you to those of you who are joining us. Thank you very much. Spend some time, share it. I will start in the next 5 minutes. I will start in the next 5 minutes. I will start in the next 5 minutes. So just spend some time and share it. Spend some time and share it. Spend some time and share it. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. This is the hour with Cephas Kafui. I appreciate having you today. And I hope that the past 5 days has been a blessing unto you. The past 5 days has been a blessing unto you. Just share it and let someone be part of this. Share it, let someone be part of this. Share it, let someone be part of this. And if you have any questions, write down your questions. I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask your questions. Any questions that you have, I will be willing or endeavoring to answer those questions. So just write down your questions, get ready so that we can begin with this. Thank you all so much. Thank you for joining us. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of this. You are greatly appreciated. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. We'll be starting very, very soon. We'll be starting very soon. In the next 3 minutes, we shall be starting. In the next 3 minutes, we shall be starting. If you have any questions, just get your questions ready, and we shall start very, very soon. If you have any questions, get your questions ready, and we'll start very, very soon. Thank you so much for being part of this. Wonderful. All right. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Mitzi. Thank you, Elliot. Thank you. Good evening for joining us. Ashley, thank you for joining us. Antoinette, thank you for joining us. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Good evening to all of you. Good evening to all of you. Whether it's good morning where you are, good morning to you as well. Thank you for joining us. We'll be starting in the next 2 minutes. In the next 2 minutes. In the next 2 minutes. I'm here today just to answer questions. I have been giving some live teachings in the course of these 5 days, and I've spoken a lot about things to provoke your life to be transformed, your life to be changed. In the past 5 days, I have spoken about what it will take for you to succeed in 5 days. I have given you 5 cardinal principles, 5 executive principles that will change your life. If you put these things into practice and you begin to do it, your life will be transformed. It is a matter of action. It is a matter of decision making. So that is what I've been doing. Cessna, God bless you. Thank you for joining us. Pastor Benjamin, God bless you for joining us. God bless you for joining, because we need an usher in this place. We need an usher in this place. Thank you for joining us. Thank you all for being part of this. Thank you for being part of this. Christian, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing, Christian. I appreciate you. I know that you have been sharing a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, all of you. We shall be starting very, very soon. I've been talking about the 5 cardinal principles that will change your life. Solomon, in the antiquity of Jewish history, made a statement. He said, I returned and I saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift. The race is not to the swift. The race of life is not to the swift. It doesn't matter who started first. Starting first is not the issue. Starting first is not what it takes to finish. The race of life is dependent on endurance. Solomon made a statement and he said, the end of a matter is better than its beginning. The end of anything is better than its beginning. Anyone can start something, but not everyone can finish. Anyone can start marriage, but it takes commitment to endure to the very last end of your vow. Anyone can begin a business, but it takes commitment, it takes endurance for you to be successful to the business. How many things have you started and you did not finish? How many things have you started? The issue is not starting. The issue is finishing. It is my purpose to bring you to the finish line. Solomon said, the race is not to the swift. Do not be envious. Do not be jealous of anyone who has started. Anyone who has went ahead of you. Sometimes you will look at people and it seems like they are doing well. They are doing better. And when you see that, that sometimes intimidates you. That sometimes makes you feel like you are behind time. It makes you feel like you are not doing well in life. But the race is not to the swift. The race is to the person that endures to the end. God is a finisher. The Bible tells us that God is the author and He is a finisher. He is the beginner and He is a finisher. God never begins anything He does not finish. In fact, before God will begin, He has already finished. God has the mentality of the marathoner. The marathoner is someone who runs a marathon. And God operates with the mindset, with the mentality of the marathoner. So the marathoner, before he begins a race, only sees the finish line. The marathoner does not care about the beginning. Many people can start by running the race as though it is a 100-meter dash. But the marathoner begins by walking. The marathoner begins by walking because the journey is not 100 meters. The journey could be 25 miles. It could be 50 miles. The race of life is not how people started. It is how they will finish the race. I told you that no one begins. Abena, thank you for joining us. Abena, thank you for joining us. The race of life is about the end. It's not about the beginning. A lot of people will begin in life, but they will never finish. And you have to understand that. Nobody builds a house by starting from the roof. A house is started from the foundation. So what you have to realize is that where you have started is where life starts. The foundation is the lowest part of a building. You see, when you begin a foundation, you dig deep into the ground. You see, a foundation does not lift you up. A foundation takes you down. So sometimes, even though you are working hard, you will think that you are going back in life, but you are not going back in life. Foundation requires you to go down. Sometimes when you are building, you have to go down. You have to understand that. If you are building something, you have to go down before you can come up. Any building that is built that will stand the test of time, the foundation is deep. The foundation is not shallow. The World Trade Center that was destroyed in 2001 was the tallest building in the world. The foundation of the World Trade Center was 70 feet. It was 70 feet. 70 feet will be around 10 stories in the ground. In other words, they went deep 10 stories into the ground before they can lift up the tallest building in the world. So the fact that your foundation is deep is an indication of how high you shall rise in life. That is why you don't need to compare yourself with people. People who build a building that is 2 stories high, they have to dig a shallow foundation. If the building you are building is 10 stories high, 50 stories high, your foundation must be deeper. Your foundation must go down. In other words, you will spend more time being down than being up. That is why you can't compare yourself to people. So we're going to start very, very soon. We're going to start very soon. Today, I am not going to talk. I'm not going to talk. Stacy, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Keep on working. Keep on working. Keep on digging. Sister Victoria, God bless you for joining us. Victoria Davis, God bless you for joining us. God bless you for joining us. So you have to understand that the time you spend digging your foundation is an indication of how high you will rise in life. Don't be intimidated because someone is already standing and your life is still down. You may be down because you are building something, because you are digging, you are digging, you are digging, you are digging. Jesus made a statement. He said, no one builds a house without first of all calculating the cost. In the next 2 weeks, I will talk about the master builder. No one builds a house without first calculating the cost. Whatever that is ahead of you that you have to do in life, there is a need to calculate. There is a need to strategize. There is a need to build a foundation. Don't rush because you see people moving. Don't rush because you see people ahead of you. You must understand that in life, we are all in a race. Solomon said the race is not to the swift. In life, we are all in a race. But friends, we are all not running to the same place in life. Some people run to lose weight. Some people run just for the hobby and for the sake of it. Some people run to keep in shape. Some people run for the glory. Some people run for the prize. What reason are you running? Your reason for running may not be the same reason as I am running. Therefore, you cannot compare yourself to me, and I cannot compare myself to you. Your destination is not the same as my destination. I told you a story that one time I was driving on the I-95 from Connecticut to New York. And when I was driving, I saw a very, very beautiful car. A car that I admired and a car that I loved. I watched the car. I drove behind the car on the highway. But it came to a point where the car exited. But I did not exit with the car because it was not my destination. In life, you can admire certain people who are doing well, but don't change your course in life to follow them. Don't change your direction in life to follow them. Don't do things just because you have seen someone do it and they are successful. Do things because it is in your destiny agenda. Do things because that is where you are going in life. Understand this. Don't let people give you vision. Don't let people give you vision. If someone gives you a vision, your vision is limited in life. I am not going to talk long. I just want people to join us so that I can begin our question and answering session right now. So I can begin our question and answering session right now. I just want people to join us. I just want you to understand that there is a process in life. The race is not to the swift, number one. Number two, the battle is not to the strong. The battle is not to the strong. I told you that everyone in life has a weakness. Everyone in life has a weakness. And the battle is not always won because of strength. The battle is sometimes won because of weakness. I told you the other time that there are over 50 billionaires. There are 50 billionaires alive today who have registered their life and they have made a statement and they have said that the reason why they were successful was because of their weakness. In your weakness is your greatest strength. Your greatest strength in life is located in your weakness. And you must know that. Paul said that grace was given to me beyond measure Paul said, grace was given to me beyond measure. He said, I had grace. I had enough gift beyond measure, more than I could ever wanted. But Paul made another statement and he said, but a thorn was also placed in my flesh. That word, a thorn was placed in my flesh, means that there was a weakness that was placed in him. There was a weakness that was placed in him. So he had strength beyond measure. He had giftings beyond measure. But the same person that gave him the giftings also gave him a weakness. God is the author of the weakness in your life. And the weakness in your life is there for a reason. Do not diminish your weakness. Do not run away from your weakness. Your weakness is the only thing that will get you to your greatness, just in case you do not know. Paul went back to God. He prayed the first time. God said nothing. He prayed the second time. He said, God, take away this weakness from me. God did not respond. He went again. He said, take away this weakness from me. He did not respond unto him. And God said unto Paul, he said, Paul, my grace is sufficient for you. And Paul said, the reason why the weakness was given unto him was so that he would not lift up himself. He would not be puffed up. In other words, the weakness was given to him to check his giftings. The weakness was given to him to humble him, to make him meek. A lot of people want to be humble. But for Paul to receive humbleness, he received weakness so that it may bring him to a place of check and balances in his life. Moses, when God was sending Moses, Moses made a statement and said, God, you know I cannot speak. That was his weakness, he said. Moses said that he will stammer when he speak. And God said unto Moses that I will give you a spokesperson. That day, the weakness of Moses developed his strength. Every true leader requires a linguist. Every true leader needs a spokesperson. Every true leader needs a PR. Every true leader needs a press secretary. And had Moses not discovered that his limitation and his weakness was in speaking, he would have spoken for himself. But for him to be a true leader, he needed a spokesperson. So God, ahead of time, had placed that weakness inside of him. The battle is not to the strong. The battle is not to the strong. Richard Branson, one of the richest people in the world, the founder of Virgin Group, made a statement and he said that his weakness was a gift that was given unto him. He said through his giftness, he said through his weakness, he learned how to manage his company. He said his managerial skill came as a result of his weakness. Bill Gates also has the same weakness called dyslexia. And he said through that weakness, he learned how to manage his life. And he learned to be successful through his weakness. Steve Jobs has the same weakness, dyslexia, a communication disorder. So your weakness has in it embedded. Your weakness has in it embedded your greatest strength. Your greatest strength. Just invite someone to join us. We are about to start. We are about to start. We are about to start. Invite someone to join us. Invite someone to join us. I'm just going to pause over here. And then it's 9:20 over here. I'll give you an opportunity to ask some questions. If you have some questions, just go ahead and ask your questions so that I don't spare time. But I spent 5 days talking about this. You can go back, listen to the 5 days that I spoke, and you can get all this information that I've just repeated to you. If you have any questions, go ahead, please. Anyone who wants to start. Thank you all. Thank you all. Just spend time. Invite someone to be part of this. Invite someone to be part of this. You are going to be blessed today. Invite someone to be part of this. Invite someone to be part of this. Invite someone to be part of this. If you have a question, just post it. Just post it, and then somebody will pick it up and they will let me know, and then we'll pick it up from there. So you can post it while I'm speaking, if anything like that. But if I miss your question, I'll come back to it and things like that. The principle number 3 that I spoke about was that bread is not to the wise. Bread is not to the wise. To cut a long story short, I spoke to you about the bread principle. what I call the bread principle, that you can only eat from what you produce. What you produce is what you eat. You cannot eat more than you produce. Your life is limited to your production rate. And you have to understand that if you want something, you have to produce more. Let me pause here and answer some questions. Can a weakness be a character flaw? How do you distinguish between a weakness and a character flaw? Okay. Yes, a weakness can be a character flaw. Now, I'm going to answer your question, but if I did not understand you the way that you're trying to express your question, that is fine. You know, some people have a weakness whereby, the weakness diminishes their character. Like some people, you can see that they cannot keep a secret. And anything you tell them, they will tell someone. They cannot keep a secret. Now, that is a weakness. And that also goes against their character. That also diminishes who they are. But what that weakness does for you is that if that weakness is converted to something that God wants you to do, because for such a person, your greatest strength is for you to remain silent in life. Now, what I mean by that is this. You must develop the habit of listening more because of your weakness. Because, many people who have learned what their weakness is begin to manage their weakness. If you know what your weakness is, you begin to manage it. And if you are someone who you realize that this is what your weakness is, this is what your flaw is, you manage your weakness. Now, in the process of managing your weakness, a strength is developed through it. So if you are someone who has that habit of doing those things, and then maybe you decide to manage it, by being silent. Now, in the process of being silent and not speaking, you develop the strength of observation. In other words, what you develop now is that, now you are able to listen more and you are able to observe more. Now, observation is a great strength, basically. But that strength is developed if only you can be silent. Now, if you are talking to someone and the person is talking back to you, you talk and the person is talking back to you, people who talk when you are talking are not people who are observant. And there are people also who do not have the skill for counseling. There are people also who did not have the skill to be a therapist. When you go to a therapist, they have developed the habit of listening. And that is all what they do. And in that habit of listening is the strength itself. You can come out of the therapist's office and you feel like you have conquered the world. And they never did anything for you. All they did was to listen to you. That is all they did. But because the human mind works in a way that if something is bothering you and you speak it out, and you speak it out, and you speak it out, that poison that is inside of you is discharged. And that is the process of the healing. And that is what the therapist does for you. So psychologists will tell you that if you are going through something, clinical psychologists will tell you that go into your car, roll the windows in your car, and scream or shout. Now, when you scream and you shout, that thing comes out of you. That thing comes out of you. That is why, the shouting down of the walls of Jericho and all those things, it has something significant to it. Let me jump on. If I didn't answer your question, you can repost again. Let me jump on and answer Eliot's question. Eliot. You said we must go down to go up. How do we manage the embracement as we are going through? Because not everyone possesses the love and meekness of Christ. Okay. Now, Eliot. 1 second. Now, Eliot, I said that in order for you to rise, you must go down. And the deeper down you go is an indication of how high you shall rise in life. Anyone who wants to jump high has to squat low. And anyone who wants to build the tallest building has to dig deeper if the building must stand strong at the end of the day. Now, the process of going down, Eliot, it is true, it is not an easy process. You see, men or women who work in construction, who are digging a foundation or building a building, they will tell you that the hardest part of a building is the foundation. So that process of going down, Iliad, is not going to be easy. It is the process where people reject you. It is the process where people look down at you. It is the process where you do a lot of things and you make a lot of mistakes. It is the process of embarrassment, shame. It is a wilderness period in your life. That period where you are digging a foundation in your life is the most difficult part of your life. It is never going to be rosy. It is never going to be encouraging. It is like men who are digging a foundation. When you are digging a foundation, more strength is put into the work. If you ever go to a construction site and you see a foundation being dug, it is the most nastiest part of the entire building stage. It is the most ugly part of the building stage. And whatever you can find over there, in fact, as they dig, there are more obstacles, there are more challenges in the process of the digging. So anyone that digs a foundation, you should expect that you will face a lot of hindrances. Anyone that digs a foundation, you should expect that you will face a lot of problems, you will face a lot of troubles. But you should understand that you are in the foundation stages. You are building something. So you should understand that. Iliad, let me conclude by saying this. Nehemiah was in that stage when they were building the wall. And when he was building the wall, a prophet was sent to come and distract Nehemiah to get him off the wall. And Nehemiah said, I will not come down from this wall because we are doing a great work. When you are digging your foundation, a lot of things will push you from it. You will get discouraged. You will want to quit. You will want to leave it alone. But if you continue digging, very soon you shall see yourself rising. Let me pick a question from YouTube. How do you find your purpose? What is the difference between purpose and calling? That is, who is that? Africa's Finest. Okay, good. The first question is what? What is purpose? Okay. Now, let me answer a question from YouTube, those of you who are on Facebook. Yes. How do you find your purpose? Okay. Now, the person who asked the question on YouTube, how do you find your purpose? Number one is this. Purpose is in the mind of the manufacturer. Purpose can only be found in the mind of the manufacturer. If you want to know the purpose of a thing, you must first consult the manufacturer of that thing. Now, if I want to know the purpose of this thing, I must consult the manufacturer of this thing. The manufacturer of this thing designed this thing for a reason. Designed this thing, for something. So, because purpose is only in the mind of the manufacturer also created a manual to come with this, so that the operator of this will know how to use it. Elliot, you are welcome. So that the operator of this will know how to use this. So number one, purpose is found in the mind of the manufacturer. If you want to know your purpose, you must consult the manufacturer of your life. Now, if you believe in God, then the creator, God, is your manufacturer. Everything that you see on earth right now has a manufacturer. Look around in your house. Everything that you see in your house has a purpose, right? There is nothing in your house that does not have a purpose. Everything that you see, whether it is the floor carpet, whether it is the cups, whatever you see around you, the lights, everything in your house has a purpose. Now, somebody created that thing in your house, and someone created it for a reason. And purpose answers, the reason why something was created. Purpose is the reason why something was created. Purpose answers the question why. Purpose answers the question who, and so forth and so on. And so everything you see around you has a purpose. You may not know the purpose of a thing, but it does not mean that it does not have a purpose. The fact that you do not know the purpose of something does not mean that it does not have a purpose. For example, if you take roaches, right? The roaches in your house and things like that. Now, nobody likes roaches, right? And you ask yourself, what is the purpose of roaches? Why are they there? But because you live in these modern houses and all kinds of things, you might have missed out on the purpose of a roach. But I grew up back home. And back home, in the houses where we were living in, there were termites. Roaches used to eat termites. So back home, roaches did have a purpose because they ate termites. And termites were worse than roaches. You will prefer to have roaches than to have termites. Everything has a purpose. Because you don't know the purpose of a thing does not mean it does not have a purpose. So everything has a purpose, but not every purpose is known. Number one. Now, number two, also, you look at things like cocaine, marijuana, weed, and all. Those things have a purpose, right? But then it takes someone who has investigated what the purpose of the thing is for it to profit us, and so forth and so on. So everything you can see in your house, it has a purpose. Everything you can see. So for you to find the purpose of anything in your house, anything that you bought, you have to consult the manufacturer of that thing that you bought. The same way your life too. Somebody created you, because if everything around you, somebody created it, then somebody might have created you too. It means there is nothing that exists that was not created by someone. And everything that was created has the manufacturer in focus. So your life also has a manufacturer. To find the purpose of your life, you must consult the manufacturer. The next thing also is this. To find the purpose of your life, you must go through a process of self-knowledge. Now, when I say self-knowledge, you must go through a process of self-discovery. In other words, you must allow yourself to know yourself. You must allow yourself to know yourself. You must go through a self-diagnostic of yourself. By looking at yourself and pausing your life at a certain point in your life. Sit down at a certain... See, the problem with a lot of us is that we don't spend time to sit down. Now, when I say spend time to sit down, spend time. Take an inventory of your life from the day you were born up until this day. What are the things that you have desired? The things that you have aspired to? See, when I was growing up, I said I wanted to be an architect. There were some kids who said they wanted to be doctors. There were some kids who said they wanted to be a pilot, and so forth and so on. So everybody growing up had something that they wanted to do in the process of time. But in the process of time, that began to evolve, that began to change, and all kinds of things. So look, take a self-inventory of your life. Maybe by this time, you have thought about 10 things that you thought that you are good in, and you have not been good in. The third thing of how to know your purpose, and I'll end over here for your question. Yes, I'll answer that. The third thing of having to know that, of having to know your purpose, there is something that I call that for you to know your purpose, you must go through 4 stages of life. For you to know your purpose, the third thing, you must go through 4 stages. The first stage that I believe that you must go through is the stage of sensing. Is a stage of sensing. Number one, what do I mean by sensing? You must begin to place yourself. You must begin to pause your life and ask yourself, what are you sensing about yourself? What do you feel? Someone said like, oh, I feel like I'm supposed to be a doctor. Now that is sensing. Sensing is a feeling. You sense something. I feel like I'm supposed to be a doctor. I feel like, if I'm an engineer, I feel like I should be an engineer. See, the process, the first stage of the 4 stages is the stage of sensing. What do you sense that you are supposed to do? That is the first stage. The second stage is the stage of hearing. The stage of hearing. What are you hearing about your life? Has someone ever told you, I think you should be a doctor? Has somebody also said unto you, the way you act, you behave like a doctor? The stage of hearing. Now, if the stage of hearing is confirming the stage of sensing, then it means that, there is an intersection somewhere where you should keep note of that. So the stage of hearing must complement the stage of sensing. The stage of sensing is only belonging to you. It's how you feel. What do you feel like you are supposed to be doing in your life? That is the stage of sensing. The stage of hearing is, what are other people saying? What is your mother saying? What is your father saying? What are your friends saying? What are strangers saying when they see you? And so forth and so on. The next stage for you to discover your purpose is what I call the stage of seeing. The stage of seeing. Now, it is one thing to hear a thing, and it's another thing to see a thing. It is said that seeing is believing. Seeing is more effective than hearing. So, for example, if I sense something, sensing can be deceptive, But when someone confirms it, the stage of hearing is a confirmation to what I sense. Then what I'm sensing becomes more authentic. And if what I am sensing becomes more authentic, then it's a good thing. Then the next stage is the stage of seeing. That stage of seeing is when I have seen what I have sensed, I have seen what I have heard. In other words, I have had a dream and I saw myself as a doctor. So now that confirms the stage of hearing, where someone told me that I think you should be a doctor. Or in fact, someone had a dream and they saw me as a doctor. Now, that confirms the stage of seeing. Or there was a deja vu moment in your life, where in fact, you felt like you were a doctor. You saw yourself as a doctor. Now, that stage of seeing is also a stage where maybe you are watching TV and you see a doctor on the TV and all kinds of things, and you have that same feeling inside of you, and you are like, man, this is what I want to do. That also confirms what you have heard and what you have sensed. So those three stages must complement each other. The last stage of discovering your purpose is what I call the stage of handling or touching. In other words, you must touch that calling or you must touch that purpose. I will explain the difference between calling and purpose very soon, so just wait for me. Now what that means is this. When I was in high school, they said unto us that, when I was in high school, for us to confirm what we wanted to be in life, I told you this yesterday, that we went through the career path period. Now, the career path in high school was a program that they placed students in, so that if a student wants to become an engineer, the program in high school will place you as an intern in a contracting firm or with an engineering company. What they want you to do is to experience what you say you want to do. And if you experience it and you like it, you continue with it. That is why those of you who are nurses, you go through the stages of clinicals. Those of you who are doctors, you go through the medical school period, where you have to do, what do they call the stage where the doctors go through that period? The stage where the doctors go through their own clinical period, just like the nurses and things like that and stuff like that. Now, that is the stage where you confirm whether this is what you want to do or not. Some nurses or some individuals who wanted to be a nurse, they got to that place and they realized, listen, I don't even like blood. So now they decide not to progress with the nursing anymore. So the final stage of discovering your purpose is that you must touch the purpose. And if you touch the purpose and you realize that it is not for you, you can leave it. But as I said before, you have to go through these 4 stages for all these 4 stages to confirm each other. So therefore, if someone, let's just say those of you who are in church, someone prophesied unto you and said that you are going to become a doctor, that does not mean that you are going to become a doctor. That is only one stage of the calling process. That is only one stage of the discovery process. There must be a confirmation in the other 3 processes for you to come to the conclusion that this is what you want to do. I know I am rushing through this because I want to answer a lot of questions. So that is what I can say for you, the person who asked the question on YouTube. And let me answer your final question. The difference between calling and purpose. The difference between calling and purpose. I will simply say this to you. Calling is the voice that you hear that tells you this is your purpose. Calling is the voice that you hear that tells you this is your purpose. That is the simplest answer I can give to you. Anybody else? Let me answer some questions and let's move on. Anybody else has a question? Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for joining. And the person who asked the question on YouTube, that was a great question as well for asking. Yes, go ahead. You can ask your question. You can ask your question. Oh, okay. Let me answer a question from YouTube again. How do you cope in an environment where you don't feel welcome? And you're questioning your self motive even your existence. Okay. So someone asked a question on YouTube. Now, if you have a question, those of you who are on Facebook Live, if you have a question, you can post it and then someone will make sure I get your question, okay? Now, someone asked a question on YouTube Live that how do you cope with an environment that you are not welcome? Now, that's a very interesting question. I will answer your question this way. A lot of people feel that you should only remain in an environment where you are celebrated. Now, that is a mistake. Especially if your purpose is defined in an environment that you do not want to be. Sometimes the place that you do not want to be is the place that you are supposed to be in life. I will give you an example, my friend. Isaac in the Bible was living in a place, in an environment. The place was not good. And he wanted to move out of that place. And he told God that he wanted to move to Egypt. Now, the direction of Egypt is to the north. The direction of Egypt is to the north. So Isaac did not like where he was living in Canaan. So he told God he wants to move to Egypt, which is in the north of Canaan. Now, God replies to Isaac, and God said unto Isaac, he said, Isaac, do not go down to Egypt. Now, that is very ironic because Egypt is up. And God says unto him, do not go down to Egypt. As though Egypt was south. But God was telling Isaac that the environment that you do not like is the environment that, in fact, I have designated to bless you. So even though you don't like that environment, you must stay in that place because this is where your blessing is. If you leave this environment, you are leaving your blessing. I have seen people who were pushed away from places that was supposed to be a blessing unto them, all because they didn't like the people around them. I've seen people gotten very, very irritated by the environment that they were in. But you look at the life of Jesus. Jesus always went to places where he was not celebrated. The reason is because of the fact that your purpose is normally found in places where you are not accepted. Because your purpose is meant to redefine the place. Your purpose is meant to redefine the environment of that place. So sometimes you must look deep into it. There are certain environments which are not good for you. I understand that part. But you should never leave an environment just because people don't like you. If people do not like you in that environment, it actually means that that is where you belong. That is what it actually will mean. So, what was the conclusion of that question? And your question, and how do you, and questioning yourself, motive, and even your existence. Okay. Now, the next question from someone on YouTube is this. Ines, God bless you for joining us. Yes, I got it. Yeah, let me answer the question on the last question on YouTube, then I'll answer the question on Facebook Live. Now, I want you to understand this, that if you are questioning your existence and you don't feel like living, you are not happy with yourself, you are not happy with your life, and so forth and so on, and you are questioning yourself as to why you live. Now, let me begin first of all by saying this to you. You are not alone. The most difficult question on planet Earth today is, who am I? The most difficult question on planet Earth today is, who am I? What am I? And why do I exist? Those are the three most difficult questions on planet Earth today. This question is so difficult that billions of dollars is being pumped into the space program so that scientists will come to a conclusion as to who we are and so forth and so on. Now, if you don't believe in the Bible, this makes sense as to why scientists will continue to pump a lot of money to answer those three questions of existence. Who am I? Why do I? Now, if you can answer those three questions, you will add value to your life. If you can answer those three questions, you will appreciate the reason for you being alive. And I will just briefly respond to that to you right now. Understand this, that according to the Bible tells us that God created us. According to scientific discoveries and theories such as Charles Darwin and things like that, we came through the process of evolution. Now, for science to prove that God did not create us, Because the Bible has made it seem that man is very, very important. And there is a reason for man's creation. There is a reason for man's existence. And in fact, the focus of God is upon man. And the focus of God is upon the planet Earth. That is what the Bible has made it seem, or that is what the Bible is saying. Now, in order for the Bible not to be true, science has to answer that same question that the Bible has answered. The question is, who is man? The question is, why is man here? Science has to answer that question. And in order for science to answer that question, science must prove that man is not the only person who exists on earth. Science must prove that man is not the only person who exists in the universe. There are other alien creatures. That is why a lot of movies is made about aliens. And so, because science is not satisfied with these things. So a lot of billions of dollars is being pumped into the science program, only so that question of the Bible, who is man, can be refuted and can be disqualified. At the end of the day, science has spent billions and trillions on the space program over a 50-year period since the space program began, and they have still not been able to find any other creature outside of Earth. Let me say this before I end with you. The Earth, by its nature, is strategically positioned in the solar system where it is. That if you move forward to the next planet after the Earth, you cannot live on that planet. If you move back to the planet behind the Earth, there is a problem living on that planet too. Now, in our solar system, there are 8 planets. When you went to school, they said there were 9 planets. But now they have changed their mind. They said the other planet is a dwarf planet. It's a moon. It's not a planet anymore. So now there are 8 planets in our solar system. Our solar system, the center of it is the sun. And the rest of the 8 planets revolves around the sun in our solar system. But we understand that our solar system is not the only solar system. We understand that there are trillions and trillions of solar systems outside our solar system. And each one of these solar systems also have at least 9 planets or 8 planets around them. So you're talking about trillions and trillions and trillions of planets and galaxies outside of this. And out of all these things, science has still not been able to discover life elsewhere apart from Earth. No alien life has been discovered anywhere apart from Earth. That means that the existence of man is very, very crucial, and it is very, very meaningful. So if you are asking a question about your existence, you must know that your life existence is for a reason. For the very fact that you are alive, there is a reason to it. For the very fact that you were born, there is a reason to it. Your life is not a coincidence. Your life is not an accident. God, being the creator, looked upon the face of the earth. He saw something that must be done, and he saw someone who can do it, and he placed that thing inside of you. And he chose a channel. He chose a vessel, and he placed you in that vessel. He placed you in that channel, which is your mother and your father. And you were born, and you were born for only that purpose, to fulfill that agenda and that need that the manufacturer, the supreme intelligent designer, saw from time memorial and created you to come and perform on earth. The next question. Let me pick a question from Facebook Live. The Bible says his grace is sufficient for us, and he makes himself greater even in our weakness. I'm experiencing it right now. We are sometimes made greater through our weakness or environment. Okay. Then question, could you have more than one weaknesses? And if so, how do you know which one is your purpose to develop? Interesting question. Now, I said before that your greatest weakness is your greatest strength. In your greatest weakness, you will find your greatest strength. If you look through every character of the Bible, their weakness ended up helping them to fulfill their purpose in life. Their weakness helped them to fulfill their purpose in life. I use Paul as an example. The other time I use Samson as an example. Samson did not choose his weakness. You did not choose your weakness. You were born with a weakness. You didn't choose it. But I am not just referring to any weakness. I am referring to your greatest weakness. There is a weakness in your life that supersedes all your weakness. Paul calls it the sin that often besets us. In other words, there is one thing in your life that every time you are going forward, it brings you down. Every time you are going forward, it brings you down. That one thing is the one thing that you need to manage. It is your greatest weakness. If you manage that thing, you have been able to develop a skill of strength that will get you to your purpose in life. So Paul talks about the sin that often besets us. So I gave an example of Samson. Samson's greatest weakness was not women, right? His greatest weakness was not women. Now, it was through the channel of women that his weakness was discovered. So yes, he has a weakness for women, but that was not his greatest weakness, which means that you can have several weaknesses, and we all do have several weaknesses. But there is one great weakness which corresponds to your purpose in life. And for Samson, that great weakness had to do with his strength and his purpose. So when Samson was born, it was told to Samson that when your hair is cut, you shall become weak. You will lose your strength. You will lose everything. That was his greatest weakness. So the statement I made is this: in your greatest weakness is your greatest strength. So Delilah let Samson deceive Samson. Samson exposed his weakness. And then the Philistines came for Samson. Now remember, what was Samson's purpose on earth? His purpose, the reason why he was born, it was told to his mother that the strength of Samson will be used to wipe out the entire Philistine kingdom. It was meant to destroy the entire Philistine kingdom, but Samson became complacent. Samson turned onto other things. After he was able to conquer some towns in the Philistine nation, he lost focus. All of a sudden, he turned his strength into entertainment. So sometimes he will go to a place and he will use his strength for entertainment. He will tie 300 forces, swing them around and throw them over the place, and he will be laughing, making jokes. He lost purpose. But his purpose was to wipe out the Philistine nation. How did he get to his purpose? When the Philistines got him, they got him because of his greatest weakness. And through his greatest weakness, he ended up exactly where he was supposed to be. He ended up in the capital of the Philistine nation, where they have called the greatest meeting among the 5 kings of the Philistine. At that time, Samson's head has grown, and he prayed one prayer and said unto God, he said, give me my strength this last time. And this time, if you give it to me, I will do exactly what you have said. I will use it to destroy this entire kingdom. So God gave him back his strength, and Samson said, give it to me and let me die with them. And then he took that strength and he healed onto the pillars, and he brought the whole building down. And in just that one instant, all the kings of the Philistine nation were destroyed in that one instant. That only happened because Samson's greatest weakness placed him in his purpose. His greatest weakness invited him to exactly where he must be in life. So that is what I'm saying. Now, that question from Facebook: does sexual weakness help you to develop? If so, how? Well, it looks like weaknesses are turning into something else right now. Now, listen carefully. Ajua, I hope that Samson's example was good enough for you. Moses had a weakness. I spoke about the weakness of Moses and how the weakness of Moses led him into his purpose, that he could not speak. He told God that he could not speak. God provided Aaron as a spokesperson, and through that channel, it led him to his purpose. Now, the next thing, sexual weakness. Let me read that question again. Does sexual weakness help you to develop? If so, how? I love that question. Interested. Does sexual weakness help you to develop? If so, how? I'm going to say this. It might blow the mind of many of you. But in the process of life, I want to say this one thing. God is a God of mystery. He's an incomprehensible God. Certain times, our religiosity and our spirituality limits the frame of God for humanity. And we may not understand what God is doing. Let me give an example. The prophet Hosea. God asked Hosea to marry a prostitute. And Uzziah went and married a prostitute, slept with the prostitute, and had children. After he had the children, he took the first child born and used the first child born as a prophecy to the nation of Israel. Now listen carefully. If any pastor today is to go and pick, or if any leader of a church today is to pick a prostitute and say, God asked me to go pick this prostitute, now that would be very controversial. In fact, that would be very, very consequential. It will lead to all kinds of things. And then for him to come out and say that, well, the purpose of me picking a prostitute was for God to demonstrate his power, and was for God to reveal unto Israel that Israel has went after harlots or prostitute. So God only wanted to make a statement that Israel has went after harlots and prostitute. There was no way for God to make this statement except asking Hosea to go and pick a woman who is a prostitute and have children with her. So the ways of God are mysterious. And sometimes the ways of God will lead unto other things. So let me say this unto you. Sexual weakness can lead to a strength. There are many people in life who are called to certain positions in life. And the positions in life that they are called to, they have to go through certain things before they will be able to be used for the purpose by which they have been called. Let me say this again. There is what we call the refiner's fire. There are many people that are called for certain things. For them to be functional, for them to be operational in their calling, they have to go through the process. They have to go through what the people went through that they are speaking to. In other words, they have to experience what their audience have experienced in order to communicate to their audience. And let me explain this to you. Jesus witnessed to a woman at the well. And the woman that was at the well, we were told that the woman came to the well at noon. During those days, women go to the well to fetch water. Those of us who grew up back home, you know that you go to the well to fetch water, or you go to the riverside to fetch water. But nobody goes to the riverside or the well to fetch water at noon. The reason is because of the fact that going to the riverside or the well to fetch water at noon, that is the time where the sun is very, very high. That is the time where the sun is very, very scorching, and the heat of the sun is at its highest. So at that time, nobody goes at that time. So for this woman to go to the well at that time, it means she was avoiding something. She was avoiding something. She has been ostracized by society. She has been stigmatized by society. She has been rejected by society because of her sexual sense and her sexual weaknesses. But that same sexual sense and weaknesses that she had, God was about to convert it into something very, very great. So Jesus met this woman at the well. She came alone because nobody will go with her, because she has been stigmatized and ostracized. No one will walk with her. So she came to that place, and Jesus began to communicate with her. And Jesus said unto the woman that, I know that, Jesus said unto the woman that, you have 5 husbands. You have lived with 5 men, and the man that you are now with is not even your husband. And the woman said, wow, sir, you are a great prophet. The communication went on. To cut a long story short, the woman discovered that Jesus must be a prophet for him to know the things he knew. The woman was converted. She was moved. Immediately her life was changed. And she said unto Jesus that I want some of this living water, that I may not do these things again, that I may not come back to this well again. So the Bible tells us that she ran to the city and she said, come and see a man who has told me everything about my life. Mind you, Jesus never told her everything. Jesus only told her about her sexual weaknesses. The woman went out, dramatized the whole thing, and said, come and meet a man who has told me. And then the story said that the entire town followed the woman to Jesus. Now that was a big exaggeration, which means that a lot of people in the town, majority of the people in the town, followed the woman to meet Jesus. Now let me ask you a question. Which among us got saved and you ran to your friends and said that I just got saved and this is what God did for me, and every friend that you knew in your life ran to your church? Which one of us got saved? You went to the train station, you screamed on top of your voice, this is what Jesus did to me, And then after you scream, everybody else ran to the church with you. Who did that? But this woman did it. The reason why she did it was because the town knew her story. Her story was not made up. The town knew her. The town knew that she sleeps with everything that she sees. The town knew her weaknesses. So when she said what she said, they knew that something has happened. So out of curiosity, they want to see who did this to this woman. How did she get to this point? So your weaknesses, whether it be sexual weaknesses, can lead you to a place of greatness that God has designated for you. That woman became the first female evangelist of the New Testament. Let me pick a question from Facebook Live. How do you identify your greatest weakness? And if it is an individual, how do you control it? I think I spoke about how to identify your greatest weakness. I say your greatest weakness is the sin that often besets you. There is something that pulls you back. It becomes your greatest hindrance every time you want to go forward. That is what keeps on coming up. For someone, sometimes it is not even a sin, but it is something that brings you down. It just besets you. Sometimes the fact that you are even shy could supersede every weakness in your life. For me, my shyness paralyzed every part of my life. Because I was shy, when I speak, I stammer. I couldn't make a full sentence when I speak. From high school through college, I struggled through it. All because I was shy. It wasn't because I had this thing, but it was because I was shy. All throughout my high school years, I couldn't speak to a female because I was shy and all kinds of things. Now, I struggled through this over a long period of time. And so it may not be a sin per se, but it may be that thing that besets you, that thing that pulls you back, that thing that overwhelms you. In fact, I pray a prayer in high school that if I tell you, man, you will laugh at me, so I will not even tell you. So let's go on. Let me answer the next question. Yes, Adjoa, we have to identify the greatest weakness, submit to God so that you can manage it to find out what your purpose is. Okay, now let me pick the other question that you had from YouTube Live. If you have a question on Facebook, you can post it. Let me pick that question from YouTube. Yes. It's long. All right, I'm waiting for a question on YouTube. If you have a question on Facebook, you can post it. I heard it is long. Yes, your greatest weakness can be your fear. There are a lot of people. I once knew someone who had so much fear that they never slept in the night. I knew someone about 8-10 years ago that I was praying for. And the person will not sleep. The person will go up walking on the street, walking around, going to movie theaters, to waste the entire night, and let the night pass by and then comes back and sleep in the daytime because they were afraid to sleep. They were afraid to sleep. And that changed their whole life. It messed up everything, their concentration. It messed up, their health. It messed up a lot of things inside of them. Yeah, Lydia. Yeah, if you do have that fear problem, certain things in life, you have to speak to those weaknesses. Now, understand this. Timothy had that same weakness of fear. So he wrote a letter to Paul to communicate that weakness. Paul responded back to Timothy and Paul said that, son Timothy, God has not given us a spirit of fear. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but he has given us a spirit of what? Of sound mind, a spirit of love and sound mind. So Lydia, you have to speak the opposite of what you are feeling, and you have to be convinced of what you have been given. Now, if you are experiencing any fear in your mind and all kinds of things. Submit that weakness unto God. Bring that weakness before God. Now, there are different avenues of handling weaknesses, but I'm just talking specifically about what you are saying right now. Okay, somebody is also asking the same question. David, how are you? I said I was going to call you David. I told your sisters that 2 weeks ago. I hope you are doing well with your soccer team. How can you overcome the fear that could be what besets you? Interesting. Okay. Okay. Now, if you have a fear of something, pay attention to exactly what you have the fear about. Let me give you an example. I had a friend I knew. She had a fear of something, a fear of sleeping and dreaming. The reason why she could not sleep was because she was afraid of the things that she sees in a dream. So because of that, she will avoid sleeping so that she will not dream. And normally she will do things, to clog her mind so that she will not dream. Because every time that she used to dream when she was a child, it used to be nightmares and all kinds of things. So I was praying for her about certain things. And I was led to ask her about her dream. And I asked her, I said, do you dream? She said, no. And I said, well, we have to pray for you to dream. Then she began to tell me the story as to why she does not want to dream. And I said, well, you need to dream if you need to see what God wants you to see. So we prayed and she began to dream. Do you know that when that lady began to dream, from that point forward, that lady could dream something and it will happen the following day. She could dream. Her dreams were very, very prophetic. There are certain people when they dream that this sister had an accident, the following week the accident happens. That is exactly how she was. So you could imagine that she had a strength that was hidden underneath the weakness. So those of you who have a fear of something, now whenever you have a fear, there is something that you have a fear of. That thing is something that you have to look into. It means that underneath that thing, there is a strength hidden underneath it. Just like the lady I gave the example with. That underneath it all, she had these giftings where when she dreams, she could see into people's future. And it was amazing. Evangelist Jasmine, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for confirming that as well. Yes, let me add a question from you. You mentioned that we first go down before being lifted up. That's understood. However, can going down relate to personal life changes? Perhaps not persecution? I'm finding it hard to understand the question. Let me read the last stage of the question, please. Pick the sheet of paper for me. Let me try to read this carefully. What time is it? Bring it to me, please. You mentioned that we first go down before being lifted up. That's understood. However, can going down relate to personal life changes? Perhaps not persecution. I'm not understanding the question. Or ridicule from others. Example, losing of faith, isolation, finances, lost opportunity, etc. So can going down relate to personal life? Yes, I got it now. Thank you. Now, so the person on YouTube Live asked a question that about going down. Yes, about going down, because I did mention that life begins from down before it goes up. Life begins from the foundation before it is lifted up. Life begins from the valley before it gets to the mountaintop. Now, you will experience more time in the valley than you experience at the mountaintop. You will experience more time digging a foundation than you experience lifting up the building itself. And you have to understand that. Now, the process of digging a foundation or the process where it seems like your life is going down, which means that you are digging the foundation. Now, there are a lot of indications of those things. And most of those things could be trials in life, difficulties in life, just like you mentioned. So, yes, your question is right. What you stated is right. In other words, you can go through life challenges. You can go through the loss of a job. You can go through the loss of a loved one. You can go through a lot of things that will indicate your process. It will indicate where you are going and where God will take you and all kinds of things. And so your question is right, basically, for what you are saying. And if I have time, I'll come back and I'll give you an example with that as well. Anybody else? I have a fear of public speaking. Probably need to go to Toastmasters meeting to manage this weakness. Well, Ajua, you see, the thing is that I never spoke before people when I was a child. Growing up in high school, as I said, my greatest weakness was that I was so shy. I had shyness like a sickness, so that I could not talk to people and things like that. I remember one time there was a family gathering, and I spoke in that gathering, and I was telling my mother something. And one of my aunties heard what I was saying to my mother. And my aunt was shocked. She asked my mom, she said, I didn't know your son can speak. At that point, she has seen me for over 5 years. And she has never heard me speak a word before. I never speak before people growing up. Even throughout high school, you will come to my parents' house and all kinds of things. The moment a visitor comes to my parents' house, I go straight into my room. If the parents does not, if the visitor does not leave the house, I do not come out of my room. It doesn't matter what you do. You can cook and say the food is ready. I am not coming out. I was so shy of people. My shyness was a sickness. I was so shy of people that I could lock myself in a room and you will not know that I exist. And things like that. I never spoke in class. From high school and college, I was not able to speak in class. My college thing became so problematic that, in college, I was in engineering, computer engineering, and in our classes, you have to do presentation because every time that we do a project, you have to present it. So sometimes I'll bring my project to present it, and I'll stand before the class to present my project. And I'm telling you, I cannot give a single statement. I'm standing there, the thing is written. The PowerPoint is in front of me. I cannot even read it. I cannot even speak it. My professor felt so bad for me that my professor got me help in college. My professor got me this student who was doing her master's in English. Very, very nice, young Caucasian woman. And in fact, she helped me a lot. She helped me even to edit my first book, basically. But then, she didn't do much as far as my speaking is concerned because my speaking was a problem. So one time my professor was like, listen, I love your voice. If only you can use that voice, you'll become great. That's what she said to me. She said to me that you have such a wonderful voice, whether she was lying or not. I love it when she said it. So it didn't matter whether she was lying to me to make me feel comfortable so that I could speak. But she said, I love that voice. If you can find a way to use that voice, you'll become great in life. Now, during that process in college, I couldn't find a way to use that voice. But the day that I had a calling into ministry, the day that God called me, from that day forward, I began to speak as though I have been speaking all my life, just like that. I didn't do anything to gain it. I didn't, there was no other magic to it. It just changed. It just switched. And I just began to speak just like that. Just like that. You see, yes, my sister Evelyn, my sister Evelyn Agbesi is on there, basically. You see, my sister is like, let me gas her up a bit on this network. She's like my favorite among my siblings. We are told not to pick a favorite, but my sister is like the best of all of us, basically. She's like the best of all of really, Evelyn. How do you deal with being overprotective of someone? Akajealous. Okay. I grew up with my sister. I spent most of my young age with my sister Evelyn, and she was the one who was always next to me. She was the one who was always moving me all over the place, and things like that. She was like my protector when I was a kid, and I didn't go to no one but Evelyn. So I got used to her. Anyway, now let me answer that question. How do you what? How do you deal with being overprotective of someone, aka jealous, aka jealous? Yeah, that's aka jealous. All right. I think that I don't know where the overprotective comes with the jealous. Is this a relationship issue? Because it seems like this is a relationship issue where it looks like you are in a relationship with someone and you are overprotective over the person, basically, and you are watching who talks to the person and who does not talk to the person and things like that. Now, for that relationship to flourish, allow the person to be the person, because that is the only time that the person will make their mistakes in front of you, or else the person will hide everything, and then later on you'll find out about what the person is doing and you'll be surprised. But because you were so overprotective, you did not allow the person to show their true character. So allow the person to show who they are. Let them show what their true character is. And when their true character is shown, that is when you can begin the reformation and the changes. What's the other question, please? Okay. Anybody else has a question? Anybody else has a question? Let me pick a question from anyone else. Anybody else has a question? Okay. I have a weakness for lot. How do you deal with rejection on your way to fulfilling purpose? Interesting. One thing I will say to you is this. Everyone will face rejection, which is true. So the question is, how do you deal with it? Jesus was rejected. And he said that the stone that the builders have rejected became the cornerstone. So he said that the servant is not greater than the master. And he said that if this is what they are doing to a green leaf, what would they do to a withered leaf? In other words, if this is what they did to me, what else do you think they will do to you? They will do worse to you, he said unto his disciples. So you are going to face rejection. You are going to face isolation if you are going to be great. There is no greatness without isolation. If you are going to get to the place of purpose, in fact, you cannot even find your purpose until you have been isolated and rejected. So you have to know that. How to deal with it is to know that it is a process. Everything you are going through is a process. It's just like manufacturing. There is a process through the machinery before you get to the packaging, before you get to the delivery, and all kinds of things like that. So you should know that what you are going through, you have to convince yourself. At a certain point in your life, to deal with rejection, you have to convince yourself. You have to persuade yourself. You have to encourage yourself. Now, I say this to you because I do this often to myself. And things like, I think I am my biggest cheerleader. I am my biggest encourager. Become your biggest encourager. Become your biggest cheerleader. Jesus made a statement when he was rejected by the Pharisees. He said unto them that before your father Abraham, I am. Now, it seems like at that point, he began to blow his own trumpet or blow his own horn. He began to, lift up himself, cheer himself up, and he began to call himself God. At that very instant, he called himself God and things like that. In other words, if you don't believe in who I am, I believe that I am. So at a certain point in your life, when things are messed up and things are not going well, go and face your mirror and speak to yourself. If there is no one to recommend you, recommend yourself. If there is no one to tell you that you are good, tell yourself you are good. If there is no one to tell you that you are beautiful, tell yourself that you are beautiful. The greatest people that God ever used have been people who have learned to encourage themselves. The Bible said, and David encouraged himself in the Lord. When everybody else rejected him and people picked stones and they were throwing the stones at him, what could he do? He encouraged himself in the Lord. Listen to me. Self-empowerment and self-encouragement is your biggest weapon. Because trust me, a time is coming. A time is coming. The people that love you most will also reject you. And you must know that. Jesus got to a point and he cried and he said, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. My father, why have you rejected me? A time is coming, you are going to feel that way. A time is coming where you are going to feel your best friend rejected you. A time is coming where you're going to feel your mother rejected you, your father rejected, even your pastor will reject you. A time is coming. Because people will not understand your process. Some people, when your process begins, they will go with you, they will pray with you, but your process will get to a point where it becomes nasty. It becomes so bad that people begin to think, sister, maybe there is some evil thing working around you. Now, people now begin to see you as suspicious. By the time you realize the people who were encouraging you and praying with you, they begin to walk away, gradually away from your life. Because now they are beginning to suspect you. Because as for you, every time you get a job, you lose it. Every time you do this, it mess up. Every time you come into people's lives, something bad happens. So now, people begin to retreat from you. So now, people who are supposed to encourage you will even walk away. To the extent that even your pastor at a certain point who has prayed with you and the issue is not going away, will at a certain point will begin to think that you are a demon. At a certain point, will begin to think that something horrible is wrong with you. So it gets to that point, and at that point where it is so nasty, you have to get to that point and encourage yourself. Jesus turned to the disciples and said, would you also leave? Would you also leave? Everybody has left. 5,000 people gathered to him. He fed all of them. And all of them left because he made a mistake and spoke one word that he believed. One word that he valued as true. He said, I am the bread that came from heaven. And he had just given them bread to eat. You thought they would have received it. They got upset. They picked stones. They wanted to beat him up. They left him and they rejected him. The disciples were also saying, listen, Jesus, as for this one, you shouldn't have said it. This is bad. This is bad. So Jesus turned to them and he said, would you also leave me? And they said, no, Lord, we will not leave you. But at his greatest hour, they all left him. Peter left him and said, I do not know this man. And he left him. So at your greatest hour, people will reject you. You must learn from now to become your greatest encourager. You must learn from now to become your greatest cheerleader. Speak into your life every day. Speak into your life. Even if you fail, tell yourself you are successful. Tell yourself you are great. You will never hear people often telling you you are great. Begin to say it to yourself. I remember when I was in school, I remember that what changed my life and what made me start to pass all my classes was when I began to tell myself I'm smart. I thought that in the beginning I was just an average student. That was all what I was in class. Then all of a sudden I began to look at other students who were doing well and I began to tell myself I'm smart. I'm smart. I'm smart. I'm better than this. I'm smarter than this. So I began to tell myself I was smart. I was smart. By the time I realized I was getting the highest grade in the class. You have to speak to yourself, and nobody will do it for you but yourself. Until you do it for yourself, people will not believe it. People only believe what they see. People only believe what you tell them. Whatever they say, if you don't like it, change it. Lydia, I'm very, very happy for you. I'm very, very happy for you. Pastor Jasmine, my weakness is food, so addicted that it interferes with my fasting life. My goodness, Pastor Jasmine. It is a very interesting thing. It means that there is something there for you, Pastor Jasmine. There's something there for you. Something happened to me. Let me add to what Pastor Jasmine is saying. Okay. Now, my time is almost up. So, but let me add to what Pastor Jasmine is saying, that her biggest weakness is food, and sometimes it has interrupted her fasting life and things like that. I think that there is something deeper in that, Pastor Jasmine. I am someone who fasts a lot, and I have fast for very, very long. I have even fast for 3 years straight, done 6 to 6 for 3 years straight, and things like that. But one day, a pastor friend of mine, he's much older than me, a prophet, was having a conversation with me, and he said that God said I should tell you this. God said I should tell you that you should not eat meat, you should not eat fish, and you should not eat pepper for 9 months. I was like, what? God knows I love my meat and I love my pepper, especially pepper. How can I eat food without pepper and salt? This guy comes and says, God said, don't eat meat, don't eat fish, and especially don't eat pepper and salt. That was ridiculous. He said for 9 months, not for 9 days. 9 months. And pepper is everything for me, basically. If I go to a restaurant and I eat, I have to come back home and eat again because there was no pepper on the restaurant food. That is how bad it is. So when he said this, I thought about it. I thought about it. And that friend, that prophet friend, he always gives strange prophecies. So I don't take him serious. So I decided to take him serious. And I said I was going to go without pepper, salt, and what do you call it? Fish and meat for 9 months. I didn't do it. Could you believe that after the 9 months, immediately after the 9 months, now I've always had prophetic experiences from the day that I was called and things like that. But this took it to another level altogether. I could be walking on the street and I'll be seeing things just like that. I can't describe it to you because it's weird and it's not going to take you through. But for me personally, it did something for me. It did something for me. It really took me deeper than I've ever been in my life. So things like this, I would say look deeper into it. Maybe it will get you somewhere. Yes, Ajua, you remember that time I came to your house and I told you I don't want no pepper, I don't want no salt in my food. Yes. What was the question? Okay. So, any final questions? I think I'm done for today, and I appreciate all of you for coming. If anybody has any other question, I'll pick it up. But I appreciate all of you for the time that we have shared together. I pray that it has been a blessing unto you. I pray that within this process, there has been a change in your life. There has been a process that has begun in your life and all kinds of things. And I pray that your life will be set on a different pedestal from henceforth. It is my prayer that you go forward. It's my prayer that you will succeed. It is my prayer that you will get where you need to get in life. No matter what is happening right now in your life, I want you to remember this and always remember it, that the race is not to the swift. If anybody asks you, why are you like this? Tell them I am digging a foundation. Tell them I am working on my foundation. Understand that. That is why in my entire life, I have never been jealous of anybody. I love all my friends who are in ministry. I appreciate what they are doing. I encourage them, and all kinds of things. I'm inspired by what my friends in ministry and whatever they are doing and all kinds of things. I love what they are doing. I love to see people being lifted up. My friends that I went to college with and all kinds of things, who are working successfully in big companies and all kinds of things. I love what they are doing in life and where they have gotten to, where God is taking them to. I'm somebody who is not jealous of anyone because of the fact that I recognize where I am, that I am working on a foundation. I am working on a foundation. And the reason why you spend time on the foundation is because you know what you are building. Don't compare yourself with your friends. Don't compete with your friends. Anyone that compares and competes does not know what their value is. They don't know what their purpose is. If you know what your value is, you don't compare, you don't compete. God bless you. Thank you so much for joining me. And quick question from Felicia, then I'll be done with this. Oh, Ajwa, I didn't see your question, but let me answer Felicia and I'll go to your question. You might want to post it again, please. How do you know you are ready to respond to the call of God on your life? Interesting question. Interesting question, Felicia. Now, let me say this. very carefully. Felicia asked the question, how do you know that you are ready to respond to the call of God on your life? One of the things I would say is that the calling is not only something that is subjected to ministry. God can call someone to be a doctor. God can call someone to be an engineer. God can call someone to be a lawyer. God can call someone to be a pastor and all kinds of things. So I'm just going to shuffle everything together and just say what I have to say. Habakkuk, or Habakkuk, however you want to call him, he said that I will set myself upon the wall and I will hear what God has to say concerning myself and concerning the nation. Then he said that the voice of God came unto him, and God asked him to set his words onto pen and write this down. He said to write down the vision. And he said to know that the vision is for the appointed time. The vision is for an appointed time. He said, write down the vision, for the vision is for an appointed time. This is what I will say unto you. There is an anointed time, and there is an appointed time. The anointed time is the time that you receive the call, the time that you discovered that this is your purpose. Never rush to do anything because you receive a disclosure that this is your purpose. Don't rush to do it. There is a preparation time between the anointed time and the appointed time. So there is an anointed time, the time that you receive the calling, the time that you discover that this is what I must do in life. This is what God wants me to do in my life. That is the anointed time, the time that you receive the calling. The appointed time is the time that the calling has been appointed to be activated and initiated. So God tells Habakkuk that the vision is for the appointed time. Now listen carefully. In between the anointed time and the appointed time is what I called the endurance time. The endurance time. In between the anointed time and the appointed time is the endurance time. The endurance time is the time that you go through it. The endurance time is the time for your preparation. Paul said, when I received the call, Paul said, I did not confide with any man. In other words, I did not ask any man whether I heard from God or not. Because, who can confirm that you heard from God for real? Now, so Paul said, when I heard a call, Paul said, I did not confide with man. But he said, I went to Arabia and I spent 3 years over there. During those 3 years, he hid himself. It was the endurance time. During those times, he went through a lot. He went through a lot of processes. Then when the appointed time came, he was released into his ministry and his calling. Listen again. I'll say it this way one last time and I'm done with this question. The anointed time, the time where your purpose or your calling is disclosed unto you, that is the time that is also what I call the mountaintop experience. In other words, you receive on the mountain. You receive from the mountain. The place of your calling is the mountaintop. The place of your calling is the mountaintop. You remember Martin Luther King said, I have been to the mountaintop and I have seen the future. I have been to the mountaintop and I have seen the future. It was at the mountaintop that he saw his purpose, that he saw his calling. He saw it at the mountaintop. Moses had to go to the mountaintop to see his calling. Abraham has to go to the mountaintop to see his calling. Anyone that God calls, he brings your life to the mountaintop. The mountaintop does not necessarily mean a physical mountain. Just like Martin Luther King Jr. did not receive that call on a physical mountain when he said, I have been to the mountaintop. He said, I have had a dream and I have been to the mountaintop and I have seen the future. So for him, what he saw, he described it as a mountaintop experience. Now, what you see on the mountaintop will not be fulfilled on the mountaintop. What you received on the mountaintop will not be executed on the mountaintop. You must descend to the valley and And through the valley journey, that is the endurance time. That valley journey is where you begin to work out the message that you receive on the mountaintop so that you can execute it. So, I don't want to preach a message. So listen carefully to this. And so you go through that valley experience, and that valley experience that you go through is where you go through the challenges, where you go through the problems, the troubles, the rejections, the pain, the hurt, and the disappointment. Everything happens in the valley. The reason is because what you saw at the mountaintop looks so beautiful from where you were standing. But do you know that if you have ever climbed a mountain before and you've been to the mountain, right, you know that you can see far on the mountain than you can see in the valley. You know that when you are standing at the mountaintop and you are looking out at things, it looks beautiful. But you see, you cannot see the details of life from the mountaintop. You can only see far, but you cannot see the details. But when you are in the valley, you get close to the details of things. But on the mountaintop, you don't get those details. You see far, but you don't see the details. You don't see what is in between and things like that. So, yes, I'm coming. And so you don't see the details. So you have to descend to the valley. And when you come to the valley, that is where you begin to see the details of what you saw at the mountaintop. And it is not easy. It is not easy. Even though you saw it as easy, that this is where I'm going, this is where I'm going to be. Even though you saw it on the mountaintop and it looks beautiful and easy, when you get to the valley, that is where you get so close to the issues and you confront those issues. See, when God told Moses, I'm taking the people to the promised land, Canaan, he did not tell them what was between Egypt and the promised land. He didn't tell them. From one mountaintop to one mountaintop, in between it is a valley. He never told them what was in between that. What is between your anointed time and your appointed time, your endurance time? Nobody will tell you. It is something that you have to face alone. But your greatest encouragement is what you have seen at the mountaintop. That is what you have seen. Oh my God, Pastor Jesman. I call you evangelist. I believe that call is upon your life. Okay. Yes, Ajua, you can do that. One second. Yeah, I'll answer that. Yes, Ajua, you can do that. Concerning the weaknesses in speaking. Concerning the weaknesses in speaking. What I would say is this. There are many ways that we overcome those weaknesses. You can use other means. Like I gave my example. My experience seems maybe supernatural, whatever the case, because it just switched just like that. That is different. But what I would say is that, and I tell a lot of people these things. I've seen young preachers, even young ministers and things like that. And I will tell them that it is better to take a speech class. It is better to watch YouTube, learn some etiquettes on speaking and things like that. Now I probably don't have those things, but learn those things. Learn those things. So yes, there are some natural means. You can also pick these things from a life coach, from a mentor. A life coach or a mentor can help you, and things like that. Yes, I'm coming. A life coach or a mentor can help you to get to that place in life. My final thing for you, Ajua, is this. For anyone to succeed in life, you need a life consultant. You need a life consultant. You need someone that you can consult. You need a life coach, for you to get to a certain place in your life. So I would say that for those things, that is what you want to put into your life. Let me pick up this question. Yes, I got that one. I got it. Thank you. Now, let me pick this question. May you please share your opinion on the differences between a leader and a manager. Interesting. Okay. Now, if I will share my little opinion on this, then between the difference between a leader and a manager, basically is this. Now, I believe I am a leader. I believe I'm not a manager. A leader is someone with a vision. A leader is someone with a vision. But there are other people underneath a leader, which is the manager. The manager executes the vision of the leader. The manager executes the vision of the leader. But the leader is the one with the vision. He's the vision carrier, and things like that. So I think that is, in short, what I can put over there for you. Yes, Cessna. Cessna. Yes, yes. Before you get to the mountaintop, it is true that you are coming from a valley. That is what it is. So what we are saying is that for you to have a vision, you have to be elevated, because a vision is a projection into the future. A vision is a projection into the future. So for you to have a vision, you must be elevated. You cannot stand where you are and see the future. That is why the symbolic representation of Martin Luther King is that I have been to the mountaintop. He did not go there physically. But what he's saying is that I have had a projection into the future. I have seen the future and I know how the future is going to be. So if someone say that I have a vision or I receive a vision, it means that the person was projected. It is not a physical thing, but it is something that happened symbolically, And so really, a vision is a disclosure into the future. A vision is the ability to see the end from the beginning. A vision is the ability to see the end from the beginning. In other words, from where you are standing, what can you see? What can you see? From where you are standing right now, what can you see? A vision is the ability to see the end from the beginning. When people are running a 100-meter race, the ability to see the finish line from where they are standing is a vision. So everyone who has a vision has seen the end. Everyone who has a vision has seen the end. So if you say you have a vision and I ask you, where are you heading? You are supposed to be able to tell me your destination. You are supposed to be able to tell me, what the end will be. When everything is said and done about your life, where would you arrive? That is vision. That is why Martin Luther King said that this is where we are going. This is where we are going. So you have to understand this. Let me pick up. Oh, that question was asked by Lydia. Okay, good. Hello, Mr. Marlon. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, you see, a lot of people, a lot of us, we miss that confusion between a leader and a manager. Listen, I'm a poor manager. I could tell you that. But we have to understand that those are giftings that are given unto other people and things like that. So as a leader, you have to know that, you need someone to execute your vision. You need someone to manage your vision. So the leader carries the vision. The manager executes the vision. Anybody else? I think we are done for today. And thank you all for coming up. Thank you all for being around. You are all appreciated. Time is spent. Yes, I've answered that. Time is spent, and tomorrow is Sunday, and I have a long day tomorrow myself. So thank you all. God bless all of you. I enjoy being with you. Thank you. Bye bye.